And welcome back to the channel for our daily college basketball bets. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, and get ready for some MACtion, because that's going to be the early theme of this video. 3 MAC games to start off the video. Then we've got some late night college basketball as well. Yesterday, a positive day, not a great day, but a 3-2 day. A win is a win. We'll take it. Let's expand and let's improve on that momentum that we picked up yesterday, and obviously on Sunday as well. Yesterday, we picked a lot of favorites. Today, there's more underdogs. You'll see. We do have one favorite as well, and we'll get to that in a minute. But again, let's get this college basketball slate underway. And before we get into the best bets, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more daily college best bets here on the channel. Also, make sure to go check out our NBA predictions posted in a couple hours here on the channel as well, along with our UFC Fight Night Cop versus Almabayev predictions. That fight card this Saturday from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Make sure to check out that prediction in the description down below, along with subscribing to Greedo Plays MMA, our new channel. We are going officially over to Greedo Plays MMA on March 2nd for all of our UFC content, so make sure to subscribe over there. And let's now move to our daily college basketball best bets. Starting things off here with the one favorite we are picking today. From here on out, we are picking all underdogs, but we're starting the day here in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I didn't know that existed, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know the city existed. Eastern Michigan taking on Bowling Green, again, in the Gervin Games Above Center. We're taking Eastern Michigan at home. So again, get used to the MAC. We're going to be talking about a lot of MACtion today. Bowling Green and Eastern Michigan, two kind of mediocre teams in the MAC. I'd say Eastern Michigan's a much better team. I don't know about much better, but they are a better team than Bowling Green. The way the MAC goes, all right, quickly we'll break down the MAC since we're going to be talking for the next, 15, 20 minutes about just MAC games, all right? There are clear tiers in the MAC right now, all right? Akron and Miami of Ohio are the best teams. Akron's still the best squad. Then there's Miami of Ohio. And then there's the contenders who could make a push in the MAC tourney. Again, if the NCAA tournament was right now, Akron would be a 12 or a 13 seed. They wouldn't be 11. 12 or 13 seed. So again, there's Miami of Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, and Kent State, I think can all make runs in the tournament. I'd put Ball State in that category too. I'd put Ball State with those guys. And then it's Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, and then I'd kind of put Central Michigan and Bowling Green in that tier too, even though I think EMU and WMU are better than those two squads. And then there's Buffalo and NIU. Yeah, NIU's 1-13, Buffalo's 3-11. They're in the same tier. So that's how I'd break down the MAC conference as a whole. And now we get, again, 2 of these squads in that third tier between Bowling Green and Eastern Michigan. But the game is in Michigan. It is at, again, Ypsilanti. I don't know what the hell that place is called, but again, it's at Eastern Michigan. The first time these two teams matched up, it was at Bowling Green, and EMU was able to win that game. The Eagles won it by 6 points. Bowling Green is coming off a victory. They did somehow go to Toledo and beat the Toledo Rockets, which is a very good win. Obviously, Toledo in that second tier in the MAC. Prior to that, a loss at home to Kent State, a win on the road before that to Buffalo. But you look at the way Eastern Michigan's been playing right now, this team's on a 3-game winning streak. Again, we talked about Bowling Green beating Toledo. Well, Eastern Michigan did the same exact thing. They beat the Toledo Rockets by 7 points. What do they do after? They beat the second-placed Miami of Ohio Redhawks, and then a 3-point victory on the road against Northern Illinois. I know, again, they're the worst team in the conference, but NIU does not play like a 5-22/1-13 MAC team. They don't. All right, NIU is much better than their record indicates. I'm not saying they're a juggernaut or whatnot in the conference. They're not. But I do think, again, they're not just the lowly last place team. They can put up a fight. So only beating that squad by 3 points, honestly, is not the worst. Eastern Michigan 14-13 as a whole, led by Jalen Terry, who averages 17 points a game for the squad. Deshaun Nelson averaging 16, Christian Henry with 14, and Jalen Billingsley with 10.5 a night as well. But again, Eastern Michigan playing with this momentum right now, 3 straight wins going into this game, and they are 3.5-point favorites. I expect them to cover this line. They've been winning again. The wins at home are by pretty fair margins. Again, Miami of Ohio is a good team. They beat them by 10 points at home. They beat Toledo by 7 points at home as well. Even when you look at their other home games, they played a non-conference, I believe was it's the MAC and Sun Belt Challenge, right, where they played Old Dominion, beat them by 6 points at home. Did get blown out by Kent State at home, but that's all the way back on February 4th. They've won all of their last 3 home games for Eastern Michigan. They have won by, more than the spread, obviously, in this game, which is 3.5. I feel fine with Eastern Michigan in this spot. You look at Bowling Green, this is a squad that is 5-9. We look at their road, record. Not horrible, right? Back-to-back wins on the road going into this game at Buffalo, at Toledo. But I do just think that Eastern Michigan's playing like the better team right now, obviously coming off 3 straight victories. For the Falcons, they are led by a couple main scorers. Javonte Campbell's been really turning up recently. He's led their team to score in the last 3 games, and there is Marcus Johnson as well, who is their big. But the all-around better basketball team to me, I think, is the Eastern Michigan Eagles, and on top of that, an added bonus is that this game is in Michigan. So I'm going to take the Eastern Michigan Eagles to win at home and to cover the 3.5 points here in our first game at 3:30 on ESPN+. We move on to our second game of the video, and we go to Oxford, Ohio, as we have got the Miami of Ohio Redhawks taking on the Northern Illinois Huskies. So maybe you could tell by the way I was talking about NIU a little bit earlier, we are going to pick an NIU game again. It reminds me of the same spot we had, I think it was last week. Was it last week? It was last week. Feels like longer ago. It was exactly 7 days ago. Last Tuesday, we had NIU, Northern Illinois, at Akron. They were 17.5 point dogs. They only lost the game by 10. Now, that game was much closer than that. NIU got that thing within 2-3 points with about 5-4 minutes to go, and Akron again just pulled away at the end. But that was a much closer game than the final score indicates. Well, you look at this game, Northern Illinois is a 14.5 point underdog on the road in Oxford. I'm okay with that. Again, I'll make the same point about this game that I made about the Akron game, and Miami of Ohio is not as good as the Akron Zips are. Again, I still fully expect Akron to win the conference, and, I don't know if they're going to make a run in the NCAA tournament, but I expect the Zips to be pretty well off in that. Miami of Ohio is nowhere near Akron. They played Akron earlier in the year in Akron, Ohio. They lost the game by 27 points. This is a team that's stumbling into this one. They've won 2 of 3. Sorry, they've lost 2 of 3, losing at Western Michigan. That's Kalamazoo, I'm pretty sure. At Eastern Michigan, and then a overtime victory in their last game over Kent State. Good win over the Flashes, but still losing 2 out of your last 3 going into this one. And yeah, they're 100% expected to go out here and beat the Huskies. Hell, you look at the money line odds, right? Miami of Ohio, a minus 1,400 favorite. The Huskies coming back at you at plus 750. Yes, the Redhawks are likely winning this basketball game, but the plus 14.5 I do like. So again, comparing this and relating this back to that Akron game, and the reason why I picked NIU, the worst record-wise team in the conference, to go and cover against the best team in the conference last time out against Akron a week ago, was because look at the games and the margins by how NIU loses. And again, to this day, the East Michigan loss that we just talked about, they lost by 3 points. Akron game, they lose by 10. Prior to that, Ball State lose by 6. Buffalo, 6. Louisiana in that Sun Belt Challenge, they lose to the Raging Cajuns by 2. Bowling Green game on the road, they lose by 7. Akron on the road, they lose by 4. Akron game again, they lose by 10. They beat Ball State. Prior to that, Western Michigan, they lose by 2. Central Michigan, they lose by 5. 5-point loss. Central Michigan, 15-point loss to Miami of Ohio. That's the last time they haven't covered this line. It was the first time they played Miami of Ohio. I think they're much better since that initial matchup on January 14th. I really think they are. And they've gotten great scoring efforts recently out of Quentin Jones, who's their best player. Jones averaging 17 points a game. The sophomore has been spectacular this season for NIU in his first year as a Husky, transferred in from Cal Poly last season. He went from averaging 10 points a game at Cal Poly now to, again, those 17 here at NIU. Jones has been great. He's led their team in scoring the last 5 games. James Dent can play as well. I think they lose this game, obviously, but I think they lose this within the 1-10 margin. I'm not saying, again, this is going to be a 1-score game at the end of the game, but I do think NIU is able to keep this one close. I don't understand the crazy odds or the crazy, spread in this game. I get it. The first time out, it was not a competitive basketball game. They lost by 15, but NIU's a much better team since that original matchup. And Miami of Ohio, again, coming in this one, losing 2 of 3, a loss to West Michigan. Guys, the Broncos aren't very good. I get it, again, second time around, and now it's in Oxford. I don't think it makes the biggest difference. I think NIU's playing better ball right now. The Redhawks are led by Peter Suter, who can score effectively. He averages 14. Cam Kraft averages 14 as well. But again, I just think NIU is able to stay in this basketball game. Miami of Ohio doesn't have the most explosive offense. They play solid defense, but they're really not a team that's going to run away from you. I think NIU can stay in this game. Again, very similar situation, literally almost the exact same situation we had 7 days ago against Akron. Give me the Northern Illinois Huskies to go on the road here in Oxford, Ohio, and just keep it close with Miami of Ohio. Plus 14.5. We don't care who wins. Personally, I would not get close to plus 750 for NIU. I would not play it, but plus 14.5, I love it. Give me the Huskies on the road in Oxford to cover this line. We move on to our third best bet of the video, and we set it 3 straight MACtion games, and we close with, again, the best team in the MAC, the Akron Zips, going on the road to Ball, Indiana, or Muncie, Indiana, to take on the Ball State Cardinals here in East Indiana. Never been to Ball, Indiana, but I think, if I remember my Indiana geography right, never went to that side of the state, really. Northeast Indiana. Regardless, we're taking Ball State here. We're taking Ball State plus 8.5. I think it's playable. Ball State's 1-4 of 5. Now again, Sun Belt game, they beat Southern Miss by 1 point. They beat Eastern Michigan by 2. They beat NIU by 6. 1 point loss at Toledo, and then a 14-point win coming into this game over the Buffalo Bulls. I get it, Buffalo's pretty bad, but still, Ball State's been all right. First time they played Akron, they went to Akron and lost the game by 8. Again, the line this time around, 8.5, plus 8.5 for Ball State. I would think, again, the way Ball State's played since the initial Akron loss, and I'm not going to try to tell you like, oh, Miami of Ohio's been cold, Akron's cold. They're not, all right? Yes, the Zips are coming off their first loss in conference play. They're 13-1 now in the MAC, coming off a loss in Ohio. Obviously in Ohio, but to the Ohio Bobcats, they lose the game by 17 points. Just got killed. That crowd was getting really rowdy, obviously, at Ohio. Crowd was really into it. The Bobcats got him. Ohio's a good team, obviously, right? They're another one of these squads, like Toledo potentially, like a Kent State, like a Miami of Ohio. I mean, hell, all the Ohio teams in the MAC, I kid you not, are all really good. Bowling Green, I think, is in Ohio, though, right? Except for Bowling Green. They're all really good. Like, any of them can make a run. I'm not joking. Obviously, again, Akron loses to Ohio in their last game. They were 13-0 in the conference prior to that. Again, we took NIU to cover that line against them two games ago. The Huskies covered that one, 17.5. They only lost by 10. It was a bad loss for Akron in their last game. Again, they are one of the smallest teams in college basketball. They play with pace, don't get me wrong, but they don't play with the big, really. They have a couple forwards that do play some, but even again, James Okonkwo usually is their main center, kind of like, he plays the center role. They go 5 out most of the time, but again, James Okonkwo is their leading board getter. He's 6'7", 6'8". Same with Amani Lyles, who's their other big that they use. He's 6'7". They are one of the smallest teams in college basketball. I saw someone, I don't remember who it was, I'll be honest with you. I think it was on TikTok. I saw someone had their, bracketology going, and they had Akron versus Michigan in the first round. And I apologize, but I forget who made the TikTok. But he said, and it was a very valid point, Akron, Michigan in the first round would be hilarious because, yes, it would be Akron, who's one of the smallest teams in college basketball. They put pace, sure, taking on a Michigan team with Golden and obviously Danny Wolf. That would be hilarious. Now, Michigan would probably still beat Akron, but I think, again, stylistically, that'd be a very interesting matchup. Obviously, Akron's lost to Ohio since I watched that video last week. I don't know where they're going to fall, obviously, in the bracket. And obviously, they still need to win the MAC. But this Akron team, again, led by Nate Johnson and Tavari Johnson, these guys are good, right? They average 14 and 13 respectively. But I think Ball State's able to cover this line. Again, I think Akron wins. But Akron is coming off a loss to Ohio. I still think they're a good team, don't get me wrong, but Ball State, again, playing fairly well going into this game. They're led by Jamari Hill, who's averaging 16 points a game. Peyton Sparks, I think, can make a difference in this one. Sparks does average 13 and 8. He's a senior. He's a guy who started at Ball, went to Indiana last year, did not play at IU last year, really. I mean, he had moments. I remember every time Peyton Sparks would come in, it was when Khalil Ware would go out the game, and before they started playing Malik Renew at the 5, kind of. So they put Peyton Sparks in again. He's an Indiana guy. He was at Ball State his first 2 seasons. He goes to IU, and he just really wasn't playable at that level, I'll be honest with you. I mean, Peyton Sparks, again, goes from averaging 13 points a game at Ball State to 2 at Indiana. And also, he doesn't shoot free throws. He legitimately just can't do it. He was absolutely horrible at shooting free throws. Every time again, obviously college environment. I was there at Assembly Hall last year. They do the clap, everyone puts their hands up. There would always be a loud groan in the crowd when Peyton Sparks would go up to the line. Again, he wouldn't play in Big Ten play, but like in non-conference games, or actually early Big Ten play last year when they played Minnesota. Like Peyton Sparks would go to the line, everyone just go, oh, we got to do and then obviously he'd miss. Anyways, Peyton Sparks is much better at this level. He's obviously not a power 6 player, but at this level in the MAC, Peyton Sparks can be an issue. He's a huge guy. He's 6'10", 265, and when you match him up with a guy like Okonkwo, all right, now we're talking for Peyton Sparks. I think it's a very winnable matchup for him, and I think it's a matchup that Ball State might go to a lot in this game. Sure, again, Jamari Hill's obviously their guy, and they're going to look to feed Jamari Hill in this game. But Peyton Sparks has done a very good job this season. In that first Akron matchup, he did have 15 points, only have 3 boards. I would expect him to improve upon that going into this one. Again, back-to-back games with 18 and 16 over Buffalo and Toledo. He's got capabilities of scoring a lot, as he did earlier on in the year, scoring 27 against Buffalo. I mean, again, it's doable. I think Sparks is going to play somewhat of a factor in this game. Again, much better spot for him than it was at Bloomington last season. And again, we're taking Jamari Hill and the guys. I'm taking Ball State at home to cover the 8.5 points. They lost the initial game by 8 points to the Zips. We just need them to replicate that again. I think they've got it better since that initial matchup. I still think Akron's as good, don't get me wrong, but it should be a fun one, and I think Ball State's able to cover at home. So give me the Ball State Cardinals plus 8.5, as officially we get out of the MAC and we move on out to our 2 late night spots. We go to San Diego, California. If you've been watching the channel every day, no, there's no San Jose State today. I thought about it. There's no SJSU today. Instead, this is our Mountain West game today. The New Mexico Lobos going on the road to San Diego, California to take on the San Diego State Aztecs. Yeah, it's a spot I had to look at. It was. Because for New Mexico, they actually need to win these 4 games if they want to outright win the Mountain West regular season crown, right? Because of their loss to Utah State, the Aggies are now 1 game behind them in the Mountain West, and potentially they can now tie for the Mountain West title if both of them win out. Well, if New Mexico loses this game to San Diego State, and they beat the teams they're expected to beat, Air Force, Nevada, UNLV down the stretch here, right? And you look at Utah State, Boise State on the road might be a tough one, obviously, but if they can win that game, beat Colorado State, and likely beat Air Force, then they will tie, obviously, New Mexico for the lead, or for the championship, I guess, in the regular season for the Mountain West. Regardless, both New Mexico and Utah State are going dancing in the tournament, and likely San Diego State will follow them as well. And don't get me wrong, this is a huge game for San Diego State, because this is the game that could propel them into the, I don't want to say lock right now, but definitely, all right, San Diego State, it's like it would take a monumental collapse for the rest of the season for San Diego State to not get in the tournament if they can take down New Mexico. It's the biggest game of the year for San Diego State right now. Undoubtedly it is. And this is a team, again, with a very decent resume, obviously, and that starts with their win over Houston, getting that overtime win. A win over UCSD actually is aging very well. That was their first game of the season. They beat UC San Diego. They beat Creighton earlier on in the year. They have a win over, ACC school in California. Obviously, again, that's the resume that they've built this season. And again, a huge win over New Mexico will likely get them in. I think almost for sure would probably get San Diego State in the tournament. At the same time, New Mexico's coming off a loss. They went to Boise, Idaho, and lost to the Broncos. Donovan Dent did not have a good game. It was a very unlike Donovan Dent performance, who's still an elite point guard in college basketball, if not one of the best, if not the best, one of the best point guards in college basketball. He still had 17 points, but he got a lot of those at the free throw line. He went 4 for 13 from the field. Again, not a Donovan Dent type of night. I think New Mexico is going to be playing for something here. Obviously, again, the regular season crown in the Mountain West is on the line. They know they're going to the tournament for the 2nd consecutive season. Hopefully, it turns out better than them this year. For them this year, unlike that game last year against the Clemson Tigers in the first round, where they put up 40 points. Anyways, they're still playing for something. And at the same time, they're coming off a loss. They don't want to be going into both the Mountain West and the NCAA tournament, with back-to-back losses in mind. And sure, they're going to go home to the pit and play Air Force. They have a kind of tough matchup at Reno, but I expect them to beat Nevada. And then they close the year with the home game against UNLV. Again, worst case, they finish the year 2-2. which again, I don't think New Mexico gets close to that. I still think they sweep this, I'll be honest with you. But it's a game I think the Lobos get up for. It's a game that Richard Pitino, I think, again, is going to try to go all out and win because this team has not lost back-to-back games all year long. Again, this is a New Mexico team who really has, some good losses, I guess. St. John's, obviously, Boise State. The losses to SJSU and New Mexico State aren't the best. Obviously, the Spartans being a better loss than the Aggies. But still, I think New Mexico is going to get up to play this game. I think they are. The first time they played San Diego State, it was in the pit. It wasn't all that close. New Mexico shut them down defensively, and the Lobos won that game 62-48. Again, I think Donovan Dent is due for a better night, obviously, after that somewhat, disappointing performance up in Boise, Idaho. The Aztecs, again, are good. Don't get me wrong. They got Nick Boyd and Miles Bird, right? These guys are going to average 13 a night. They don't have the explosiveness, and it's not even close to New Mexico. And this is why, again, matchup-wise, I think the Lobos get them. San Diego State coming off a loss on the road in Logan, Utah to Utah State. I think that's where Utah State is. Lost that game by 8 points. 3 straight victories prior to that. San Jose State, Boise State, Fresno State. UNLV's the last team to go into San Diego and beat them. That was back on January 18th. The Rebels went in there and beat them by 8 points. But again, I think the way that New Mexico plays, and as long as, Dent has a big night, True Washington's able to score the ball, I think New Mexico's going to be okay. I think stylistically they match up fairly well against San Diego State, and their trend still has continued. In games where True Washington scores 10 or more points, they have won every single game this year. In the 5 games that they've lost, True Washington has not scored 10 points. Boise State game, True Washington scores 9. So it's still a thing for New Mexico. Again, if they can get Washington going, they're likely going to win. Again, Borichevin's been solid. Obviously, he hit the big 3 against Wyoming. Nelly Jr. Joseph is very efficient. One of the better, more underrated centers in all of college basketball. Same can be said about Donovan Dent. They just don't get talked about because they play in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But I'm taking New Mexico here on the road. I think they can definitely beat San Diego State. Matchup-wise, I think they can run against SDSU, and I just don't think the Aztecs match up well with them. First time around, again, New Mexico, I get it was at the pit, and the pit is so hard to go play at, but still, New Mexico the first time around beat them 62-48. I think the Lobos do it again. Give me New Mexico on the road, down in San Diego, California, as they will beat the Aztecs. And again, San Diego State, still think they'll probably be in the tournament, but this is the game that can really get them in. I'm taking New Mexico on the road to beat San Diego State. As we close the video in Santa Clara, California, in the West Coast Conference at the Levy Center, we have the Gonzaga Bulldogs going on the road to take on the Santa Clara Broncos. Believe it or not, a bigger game than you would think. Yeah. The way the West Coast Conference goes, it's like the Sun Belt. Yeah, it's like the Sun Belt, where St. Mary's right now is the 1 seed in the West Coast, and they're obviously going to win the regular season title. They're going to be in the NCAA tournament, and trust me, I'll talk about the Gales in a second. They automatically get into the Final Four of the West Coast Conference. The 1 and 2 seeds in the West Coast Conference in the regular season automatically get into the Final Four of the conference tournament. It's crazy, but I don't mind it. Right now, I believe San Francisco would also be in that spot. No, Zaga beat them. So yeah, it would be Zaga. It would still be Zaga. But if Santa Clara beats Gonzaga, then Santa Clara would get that bye all the way into the Final Four. Now it still will, we still have to wait and see what happens with some of San Francisco's games and Santa Clara as well. But this is how big this game is. Because if Santa Clara wins, they control their own destiny now all the way to the Final Four of the West Coast Conference tournament, which means they would only need to win 2 games to potentially steal a bid into the NCAA tournament. Now again, Zaga and St. Mary's are locks. St. Mary's is much better than Gonzaga, as was apparent on Saturday night in Spokane. It just was. How good is St. Mary's, man? Gonzaga, I don't think they led the entire game. It was like that Lakers-Nuggets game. Different game, obviously, but Zaga didn't lead once in that one. They got back within 1 in the second half, but St. Mary's pulled away again. Nobody's talking about St. Mary's. They're the best defensive team in the country. They are a problem. They are a damn problem. Again, we talk about Moraskis and we talk about Marciulionis, but how about in that game, Mitchell Saxon? Saxon balled out. How about Luke Barrett? 2 big threes in that game when they needed them. And how about Mikey Lewis off the bench? Mikey Lewis, 5 for 7 from beyond the arc. They play a 7-man rotation, but Mikey Lewis comes off the bench, plays 18, and scores 5 threes. I mean, my goodness. And they play great defense. They're a problem, man. Nobody's going to talk about St. Mary's going to the tournament. I'm going to. St. Mary's is great. They're going to make a run. Add them on the list of UCLA, New Mexico, and the teams that we're going to be cheering on in the NCAA tournament this year. But again, this is how big a game this is tonight. Santa Clara can win this game, and now they control their own destiny. They only have 1 game after this. They got to go to Pacific and win, which I'd hope they go to Stockton to beat Pacific. I think Pacific's in Stockton. It's in that area. Then they would be, again, 2 wins away from the NCAA tournament. Now, sure, those wins would likely be Gonzaga than St. Mary's, but it's doable. It is. I think they cover against Gonzaga. The win, I'll leave that up to you to decide. I think Gonzaga, if I had to pick, wins a very tightly contested game against Santa Clara. I think, because I know both these teams know the importance of this game, and part of me, it's hard to pick Gonzaga in this spot. Now, the spread is the pick, though. That's the best bet. It's Santa Clara, again, plus 6.5. It's an added bonus if they win. I'll be cheering for Santa Clara, trust me. But it is a added bonus if Santa Clara can win this basketball game. Plus 6.5 feels good, though. I think they keep this game very competitive. Super competitive. Zaga's good. They're just not the Zaga teams of old. They've got guys, obviously. We talk about Graham Ike. He's great. Ryan Nembhard's, even though he only averages 11 points a game, he's one of the better point guards in all of college basketball because of those 10 assists a game every single night. Ryan Nembhard is, facilitating that offense. I don't know. I don't trust Zaga, though. I think Santa Clara is able to keep this game close. And the first time around, right, Santa Clara goes to Spokane, and they beat this team. It was the first crack for Zaga this year in West Coast play. Santa Clara goes in there and beats them by 4 points, and they outscore Zaga 103-99. That's when Zaga was still ranked 16th. I think Santa Clara is able to get them on the spread. Money line, I'd completely stay away. If I had to put my life savings on it, I would bet Zaga. But again, that's if the game was even. Value-wise, 100% it's on Santa Clara, and I'm hoping the Broncos can get it with Adama Alpha Ball and the guys. Christoph Tilly as well is going to have a huge assignment on Graham Ike again. But I think, again, Santa Clara, the main play here is plus 6.5 for the Broncos at home. Again, the stakes in this game, man. Santa Clara, essentially, the mindset for them has to be 4 wins and you're in the NCAA tournament. Zaga, Pacific, likely Zaga or San Francisco, and then St. Mary's. Sure, they haven't beat St. Mary's this year, and yikes, the first 2 matchups weren't great. They weren't. But that has to be the mindset. Give me the Santa Clara Broncos as they try to make their push into the NCAA tournament for the first time, and God, first time in the 21st century? I'm serious. I don't know if they've made it. I'll look it up real quick. I don't think they have. Because I don't think they even made it when Nash was here. I could be wrong. But we're taking Santa Clara to try to make that push in the NCAA tournament. They have not been in the tournament since 1996. Yep. Okay. We're taking Santa Clara to get it done. I'm not telling you they're going to go to the tournament, but we'll see. So, folks, that'll do it for our college basketball best bets here for February 25th. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more college basketball best bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.